Hello, and thank you, David. So my name is Stéphane Burat, and I'm the lead designer at Storybricks. Something that you probably don't know about me is one of my hobbies is to sometimes make presentation with grandiose titles. And you're in luck because today is one of those days. I'd like to talk about to echo something that David talked about in his introductory remarks, which is one kind of change I see coming, and the work that we do at Storybricks and how it fits into this. So, how interactive storytelling will change computers forever, and why it's a good thing. No problem. I will talk a little bit about what interactions with computers is and why we've reached a point where we must go beyond all the experience that we've had before if we want to innovate, and how interactive storytelling can be a way to go beyond this stage. And what we're doing at Storybricks, and where it can lead us. So it's a little bit of a visionary talk. I'm sorry to do that to you in the morning, but I'll try to be inspiring. So interaction. There's been a lot of work about interaction with computers, but the model I like to introduce the subject is the one described by Donald Norman. Is this wonderful book that, if you're interested in design, in every kind of design of objects and processes, you should really read. I will present a very simplified version of this to illustrate my talk. So let's say somebody wants to interact with something, a system. His mind goes through a process, and it's a process that is fairly well established now. He has to decide to interact with something. He has to have a reason, and that's the why part. And the why can be about his own goals, his needs, his values, his tastes, and that allows him to give meaning to the interaction. And when he knows why he wants to do something, it's about how he will do it, which means the knowledge he has about the task at hand, the models of how this interaction will work, the relationship he has with the different persons or systems involved in the interaction, the context of the interaction that can change how he can achieve his goals, and how he estimates, analyzes the situation, and how he has to apply this knowledge to the task at hand. And once he has gone through this stage, he has to decide what he does. So why, how, and what. And what is the actions, what he will actually do in the world, how he will interact with people, how he will apply his plan, make and play out his plan, how he will apply his techniques, his crafts. Then he does interact with the world, he does something to the world, and the world reacts and gives feedback, maybe changing the situation, maybe changing the person itself, which allows the person to modify his goals, his models, and his action. And it's a cycle that goes on and on for any kind of interaction. So that's the basic idea. But of course, if you're in day-to-day life, that's not how you think about actions. If you're making a sandwich, you're not asking yourself what your goal is. You're not thinking about how you're going to make the perfect sandwich. You just make a sandwich. Because the way interaction works is that we compile this knowledge. We learn how to do stuff efficiently, and we stop thinking about these things. And that's what learning is about. It's about, the technical term is chunking knowledge and being able to do stuff without thinking about it. Which means that when you make a sandwich, it doesn't have to be a soul-searching experience. But it can be. And we should not forget that it can be. I mean, if you want to make a sandwich that, I don't know, illustrate the perfect feeling that you have in this moment, or the sandwich for that will please your significant other, it is a different kind of sandwich, that just a sandwich that you'll make just to feed you, to feed yourself. And so it doesn't have to be a technical feat of engineering either. But again, it can be. Maybe you're in charge of a sandwich franchise and you want to optimize resources while preserving quality. So you can reflect on this stage too. And also it doesn't have to be a feat of crafting. But again, it can be. Maybe you're late and you have to make sandwiches for the whole family in a few minutes. And knowing how to do it very efficiently is a big help. So these stages are fundamental in interaction, even if most of the time, we're just focused on the action. And one of the kind of interactions, the most important kind of interaction, and that these stages in which these stages take all their meaning, is when we interact with others, with other people, because any significant, meaningful interaction that you have with another person is about a conversation, a negotiation that helps reinforce or change a why, a how, or a what, either in yourself or in others. So we're pretty good at that because we've had tens of thousands of years of training in order to perfect dealing with the whys, the hows, and the whats, and how to analyze them, how to influence people and change them. We're so good at it, in fact, that we can't not do it. Even if we're not actively saying something, interacting with somebody, we're projecting something. We may project joy, confidence, boredom, interest, shyness, anger, and so on. We can't prevent this information from spinning out of us. And even if we trying to ignore someone, it's an information, it's an interaction. Even if we try not to interact, it's an information that people can take, analyze, and use. So that's what interaction is with the world and with people. But with computers, that's not it at all. That's not how computers work. That's not how they design. And interactive with a computer is something totally alien. There's nothing in our lives that prepares us for interacting with computers. So different is the kind of interaction, even if probably if you think of interaction, you think of computers or machines or systems. But there's nothing in there that feels like what Donald Norman describes when he talks about interaction. And the reason is that computers don't negotiate. They don't think about you. They have a program, a model. They work according to rules. And they don't care about why you do stuff. They don't care about the model that you have in your head, about the things that you want to do. They only care about making you do what can change a state and go to the next step in the program. So the way it works is they are what machines. They only affect the how part of your thinking process insofar as to teach them how to give the right answers, how to give the right inputs. And even though it's their only interest in the how process, they do it very badly. Computers are very bad at teaching users to use their program. So most of the time, we have the wrong model of what's going on in a computer. And that's why it's very frustrating for most people to use a computer, because it's a type of interaction we're really not used to. Well, we learn and we chunk the knowledge of acquiring these models, and we learn tricks so that it feels a little bit more comfortable when using computers. But most of the time we're there. We're doing stuff. The only meaning of this stuff is in our head. The computer doesn't care. So, in the past few years, there's been some progress in addressing a little bit of the how, a little bit of the why. For instance, with things like Google searches. But it's the designer's assumption of the why that is used in a program. If you ask Google for a pizza, and by the way, these are the pizza places around here, if you're interested. If you ask Google about a pizza, the designer of the search will assume that you want to eat a pizza. And so I call that an utilitarian translation. It transforms the whys and the hows in facts, in whats. And so it will tell you about the places around where you are, where you can eat a pizza. But maybe you're interested in pizza recipes. Maybe you're interested. Maybe you own a restaurant and want to build a pizza oven, and you want information about that. And sure, you could enter these terms in your search box. But if the computer knew about you, had a model of who you are, what you're thinking, what your goals are, what your skills are, what you're looking for in general, it would be very different, because you wouldn't get this answer. You would get an answer that is relevant to your goals, that is meaningful to you. So, could we get there? Could we have a computer that we have a real discussion with, a real negotiation about the context and the meaning of an interaction? I do think so. And I think that one of the paths to getting there is through stories. The reason is that's where I come from. I'm a game designer, and I'm very interested in interactive storytelling, and I see the problems that interactive storytelling, the design problems at the heart of interactive storytelling, and I see that there is a real need, and if we want to go forward in interactive storytelling, we must address this. And I don't see any other domain which has these pressing needs right now. So I think that interactive storytelling might be the field that unlocks this problem of hows and whys. So why stories? Because stories are about hows and whys. They're about making sense of the world. So I love this quote. A good narrative speaks to the thematic truth that you recognize in yourself or the world at large. You relate to a good story. And by the way, this is Hulk speaking. If you are interested in script writing and Google Film Crit Hulk, and if you don't mind reading huge slabs of text in caps, you love that. And That's what it's all about. Stories talk about the whys and the hows. They teach us how having values, having relationships, having goals matter, how they change us, how they change others. Seamus talked about relating. That's what stories teach us to do. So you may have stories that are all about what's, all about actions, but they don't touch us as deeply. They entertain us most of the time when they're good, but they don't touch us as deeply as stories that we can relate to, that resonate with us, in which we find, in which we see a thematic truth in the world. Computers are a wonderful tool because they allow us to experiment with systems in a safe way if you're not playing with a nuclear reactor program or stuff like that. But in games are about learning in a safe environment, experimenting, and seeing the consequences of your actions in a safe environment. So interactive storytelling should be the perfect medium for safely experimenting with hows and whys. But it's not. Today it's not. Because games are programs. And it's so ingrained in our computer culture that we don't even think about what games could be beyond a program that takes whats and transforms them into feedback. But they could be so much more. And one of the reasons why we think of it, and we think of games that way, is because we consider inputs as actions, as whats. And even when we talk about stories, this is L.A. Noire, which is a very good game, and which has a great story. But the way we interact with the game, the way the player interacts with the game, is through these very simple actions. Even if the story is very complex, even if the characters have a deep psychology, we can only challenge them and say, okay, you're telling the truth or you're lying, which is such a simple, low-level action that it removes a lot of what the player could express from the story, especially if you're a hard-boiled detective. You could do so much more than challenge a witness. And this is another very good game, Mass Effect, of a franchise. And they have a similar problem, is that they want to put the meaning in the dialogue, so they don't go with actions, they go with a bit more meaningful actions. But the problem is the same. It's the dialogue lines are triggers. They're essentially buttons, and you just have to understand what the buttons do. And when you're a writer or a designer for such a game, it's a terrible conundrum, because if you put a lot of meaning, if you're very obvious about the consequences of what one of these choices will be, the player feels like he's playing out a script. It's not himself trying to find the right solution, the right next step in this conversation with somebody. And if you're not obvious, well, the player has no idea what's going on. It feels random. And if you're in the middle of that, it may feel more like solving a puzzle than being a character in a story, because it's all about actions, what's, and not really about what you think of the world, not really about what you want to convey through a dialogue line. There's been some progress, and I'm not dissing this game. It's a very good game, but because it builds on a model that's been the same for 50 years now. Well, about. We're not making progress in that direction. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what we're doing at Storybricks. So Storybricks is a young startup, and as I said, I'm the lead designer there, and we're trying to solve this problem. So Storybricks uses bricks to tell stories, and it's a platform for interactive storytelling, for writing stories, but also for playing them, and it's a platform for manipulating these high-level concepts, these concepts that go at the why and the how level. And it's both an editing tool, a playing environment, and an artificial intelligence engine that models very high-level concepts such as being fearful or being angry or being or what it means to have authority over someone. So you can say things like a character feels something towards somebody else. Alexander feels fearful toward all nobles, and the king feels angry at Alexander's. And by just putting these bricks into a very simple editing interface, you modify the behaviors of the characters who have normal life. We know what a king is, we know what a citizen is, and this is a fantasy world, but it could apply to a contemporary world or science fiction world or whatever. And the bricks are there to modify the behaviors and apply the why layer to the story. So Storybricks is about making an environment in which the player and the game talk about the whys and the hows, and not about the what. Of course, you play a game, so you will act through the game, but you can also talk about the hows and the whys. So this is another version of our interface to give you a few examples of what you can do with Storybricks. So we have a citizen, and he wants fame, but he's a coward. And if you ask him for help, he will dismiss you and give you a stupid excuse. And this takes only a few bricks, less than 10 bricks, but you can create a conflicted character with an inner conflict. And the game will reflect that he will seek opportunities for fame, but not put himself into danger. And we know how a character tries to acquire fame, but also how he tries to avoid harm. And so these two conflicting drives will just by putting these few bricks will create an interesting character. In a couple of bricks, you can describe a whole environment. This is, I won't go into the detail, but this is basically a corrupt kingdom. You have a king who is corrupt, he wants riches, and the people hate him, but they fear him because they fear the guards, and the guards, it's not in the bricks because the guards are dutiful and follow the orders of the king, because that's what guards are. There are a lot of things that are in the system already that you don't have to define, because when you say this person is a guard, there is a lot of information in there already. That's why we can have very few bricks for describing such a system. And the guards are very suspicious of strangers, and of course you're the stranger in town, and so you will bring change and chaos into the system. And another aspect of Storybricks is that it allows you to describe plot points in your story, which is the how part in the system. and you can say, okay, so you have this corrupt king, but as a character, you might want to make an alliance with him because he can offer you different things because he has power, but these choices have consequences because if you do so, all the citizens can become suspicious of you and not trust you. So this is the high layers. This is a scripting layer. This is the bricks that allow you to manipulate these concepts, and this is a why part. But the truly powerful thing is about the how part in our system, which is the artificial intelligence that handles what it means to define this why level. So if you remember, the how part is about context, is about giving meaning and applying these goals. And the way we do that in Storybricks is with plot templates. And a plot template is recognizing that in the world there is a situation that is known in the literature and playing it out. What I mean by that is if you have this kind of relationship, we can define that somebody loves his wife, a man loves his wife, but the wife loves somebody else. And this is a classical template of the love triangle. And because we have this information that we can define with bricks of the relationship between the characters, we can, in our database, in our world, we can say, oh, okay, I identified this template, and I know how this can play out. There are 5 or 6 stories that could be linked to a love triangle. And I will play one out. I will instantiate one of these stories. And so the world becomes a living world. You define the goals, you define the drives, the needs, the wants of your characters. And the plot templates give meaning to these wants and help the character play them out. The characters play them out. Another example, a very famous example, is having feuding groups of characters and members of these groups that who like each other. Again, this is a very famous template, and we can identify it and play it out. And it can get quite complex, like creating, recognizing that there is conflicting goals in the world, like Mark kills Beth, who is the subject of the Duke, and the Duke wants justice, but Will loves Beth, and he wants revenge. So what happens now? So that's how the system can take information about the needs and wants and goals of characters and make stories about them. But it's not all. The idea is also to involve the player, not just put him in a living world and having do whatever he wants, but also involve him and make things interesting, fun, as Shamus would say. So we take into account the player's experience in creating those stories, and we create them procedurally so that it's interesting and fun for the player. So for instance, if we have this in our system, which is only part of a love triangle, we have a jealous husband who happens to be the king and a bored queen. Because the system knows that there is a plot template called the love triangle. And it knows that it's missing something in this relationship. And it can dynamically create the missing part. And create a knight, for instance, who will love the queen and create this story because it's an interesting story to play. So when you introduce template in the Storybricks database, it's as many potential stories because they will instantiate themselves if they're meaningful for or interesting in this situation. And here it's a variation, for instance, of the love triangle, which I'm sure you recognize, in which the lover is duty-bound to the husband. But okay, that's interesting in itself because it creates a world in which stuff happens. But how do you involve the player? Well, you don't have to create the character. You can say that the player is the character. If the queen is bored, maybe she and the player is a friend or an acquaintance of the queen, she can develop an attraction to him. And so how will this play out? Because there is a potential for a love triangle here. And now it's the player's choice to develop it or not. And the potential exists because these plot templates exist, and you can express these relationships and goals. So this is how Storybricks deals with the whys and the hows in the system. But in my introduction, I talked about the conversation and the negotiation and how it should be also the player or the computer users that is able to express himself in those terms. And that's the next part of this system. The other half of this system is how we not only we allow the storyteller who writes with bricks to express meanings, whys and hows, but we want also to allow the user, the player, the end user, to talk about his emotions, his goals, his needs, his values, or the ones of his characters. So let's talk about an example. And actually, it was the example that led to the creation of this startup, because our founder is a MMO player, and when you play a role-playing game and you're a badass mage or warrior and you fight a dragon and you save the town because you're really badass and you go back to the town, most of the time they ignore you, or they still make you pay for your food, even if you saved their lives. And this is very frustrating because they don't understand the meanings of your actions. They don't even understand what you did. But let's say they do. Let's say they do. We have a problem here. Because in your mind, you have an idea of who your character is. He's a badass. And you know what you expect of how these characters should react. Will they cheer you because you saved their lives? Or will they fear you because you can kill a dragon? And you know that, but the game doesn't. And since it doesn't, there's a good chance that you will be frustrated. Because maybe they will cheer you and you want to be seen as this black-garbed person that inspires fear. And there's no way for you in the current games, state of the art, there's no way for you to express what you want this experience to be. But let's say that you could. Let's say that, so this is from the work of Scott McCloud, let's say that you could choose the mood in which you are. And you could choose to wear the mask of cruelty. It would be obvious now, the kind of reaction you expect the game to have. You want people to fear you, which doesn't mean that they will automatically, because it might well be that there are some people in this town who feel that if there is a bully that comes into town, they have to challenge him. But that's fine. That's fine, because that's the experience that you chose. And on the other hand, if you wanted to be cheerful, some people might want to take advantage of you. It's not the fact that there is a good answer or good way of playing that game. It's just you define the experience that you want from the game. The game understands and reacts to what you asked, what you told him. And that's so interesting. Because it changes everything. You talk about the fun you want, the kind of fun you want to have, and the game understands and can deliver. Um, Another example is, since we have established this vocabulary talking about goals, talking about needs, this means that you can talk about what your character believes in, what drives him, what is at the core of his ethos. Um, and, and this is very powerful because this means that you can make promises to characters, and the game understands what they mean first, and in which conditions you will keep them or break them. And if you couple that with the system that I talked about earlier, the procedural plot generation, what you can do is entice people into making promises, declaring their values. I'm honest, or honorable, and challenge these values. You generate plots that will create conflicts. For instance, you are a knight who is dutiful and honorable, but there is a plot that will force you to either go against the will of your lord, or to break your promise to someone. And it's possible to do that because we understand both these concepts, and we have plot templates that can be instantiated and give you this choice. And again, there's no right answer there. You told the game that you wanted to be this character, and we provide you the opportunity either to prove that you're going to be this character and live with the consequences, or choose that, okay, maybe not, maybe it's too hard. And this is a wonderful platform for experimenting with the whys and hows. So later this morning, you will hear and see some of the wonderful things that Natural Motion does. It's a middleware for animations that understand physics, the context of actions, and behaviors. And basically, that's what we want to do. We want to be the middleware for emotions and meaning in game. Not a small feat. Okay, so that's us. But to me, it's only a step, and that's why I wanted to talk about change. I think that if we can demonstrate that this is a new kind of interaction that we can have with programs, talking about what we want from them, talking about how we want to relate, how we want the interactions to go, it can fundamentally change the way we interact with computers. And the way it can do that outside of just the gaming sphere is that we can establish a vocabulary for qualifying the experience that you want from a computer, from a computer session or interacting with a program. What do I mean with that? By that? Okay. So you're playing a game and you have to choose a difficulty level, and you probably you've probably seen this menu or some variations of this menu hundreds of times if you're a player. If you pick easy, the easy difficulty, and not the normal, not the hard, not the ultra hard, the easy difficulty. If I just tell you, I play on easy when I play. If I just tell you that, it's a what? It's a fact. You have no idea what it means. It could mean so many different things. It could mean that I'm a bad player, and I want to learn the game. This is a new genre. This is the first time I play this. I want to learn, so I try the easy setting. It could mean that I'm a good player. I'm a good player, and I want to experiment with new tactics but I don't want to be challenged when I do that, so that because I totally master the game, but I want to explore the extreme cases. It could be that I'm an okay player, but I want to totally dominate the game because I have power list. And it could be just like in my case, I'm a game designer, and I want to explore the system and not have the challenge mess with my experience. But choosing the easy setting, because the designer of the game decides what it means, mostly it's the first choice. You're a beginner, and I will give you this kind of experience. But what if you could tell the game what you want from the experience? It would be a totally different way to interact with a game or any kind of program. And I think that this experience could exist in any kind of interaction you have with computers. Well, most of the kinds of interactions that you have with computers. For instance, what we have right now, as I said, we understand a little bit more about the context of things. You can ask your phone to set up a meeting, but it's a what? It's okay, set up a meeting at 9. But what if you could ask your computer to set up meetings so that you have one continuous week of vacation time that you can take with your friend Tom? The computer will know about the why and will take care about the what, because it's very good at taking care of the what. What if you could match people to projects in a very different way, not just about skills like it is today, about, okay, you have job offers and you have skill lists and you try to find the match. But what if it was about aspirations? What if you could find what you define what you want from the experience of participating in a group and in a project, and this information could help you find people that have the same passions, that have the same goals. It exists in a non-automated way today in the open source community, because if you're in the open source community, probably it's because you have a dream. But it could be used by people who don't have this kind of predisposition for this. If you could just talk about what you like, what you love, what your aspiration and dreams are, and you could find a project, a job, or the group of people who are passionate about the same things, that would be totally wonderful. And by the way, online dating would be totally different if we could. There would be some bound-raising stuff here. So finding media that you can appreciate. Today it's all about what's and statistical models of, okay, these people like the same stuff like you do, so maybe you like this kind of, or is this arbitrary genre, and if you like thrillers, you probably like this thriller. But that's not why we consume fiction. We consume a movie or a book to feel, to communicate, to share. And what if you were in the mood for a movie that will make you sad? Or if you want something to share with your family? Or if you want something that is suitable for sharing with a stranger or whatever. What if this information? Well, tagging the medium will be complicated, and there is a lot of interesting work in that direction. But what if it was possible? It would be awesome. But I think that the biggest progress to be made with this kind of approach to interaction will be with the easy, normal, hard, but not necessarily for games. It will be for education. Because education is such a wild field. It's a minefield. When you enter a field of expertise, a field of knowledge, you're lost because the way if you do it on your own, if you don't have a teacher to guide you along, and if you have a lesson, just a lesson plan, it's not enough. What if you could express to a teaching program, let's say, why you want to learn things? I want to learn enough math that I'm good at physics. It's not the same kind of math that you learn, or the same way you learn it. If you want to learn it because you want to be good at physics, or I want to learn enough biology so that it improves my gardening skills, or I want to find the kind of information that I could teach a child of 5 who loves dinosaurs. This would be a revolution of how we envision learning. So this is the most disruptive piece of technology of the last 5 years. And the reason why it's been so disruptive and why it's been so successful, it's because they started from the ground up. They challenge all the assumptions about what interaction should be on a mobile device, and it inspired everybody else to follow the step and copy or improve on the model. But they change the way we understand context. We understand even manipulating information. And this is the way you can be disruptive. This is the way you can innovate. It's challenging the assumptions of the medium. And here in this case, I think the kind of interactions you can have with your computer. So that's the path, modestly or immodestly, maybe, we're trying to take at Storybricks. And if you're interested, get in touch, and I'll talk more about this. Thank you very much.